Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be going over some of the most common built-in Excel functions that you're going to be using when you manipulate data sets, like we're doing here with this customer data, and also when you do financial modeling and you look at some more advanced functionality there. So the first one I'm going to show you is pretty basic, and it's just a sum function. So in this example, we're just going to sum up all these product revenue per order numbers, and that's basically going to get us to how much this company has made overall in this time span right here, April of 2009. So to enter that, we have a couple different options. We could use the equal symbol as we were doing before and enter sum right there, and Excel just brings it up. And just do Shift Control to highlight everything right here, and that gives us the sum. Now another way we could do this is we could press Shift F3 and could select this sum function right here. And then we get this menu. I personally don't like to use this that much. I find it easier to just use the Shift and Control and arrow keys to select everything rather than going through all these function arguments, but this is another way you could do that. And you can also access that menu with Alt MF to insert functions. Now another neat trick is that you don't always have to actually type in sum. It's only 3 letters, but you can save a lot of time if you use the Alt equals shortcut. So I'll just press Alt equals, and that automatically gives us a sum of whatever column or row our cell is currently adjacent to. So we could also sum up product quantities with Alt equals. And it's not great in terms of formatting. It doesn't really fix any of our formatting issues that we have here, but it can be a real time saver. We can sum up product prices right here. It can save us quite a bit of time if we're just going through informally trying to check our cells, check our work, and we want to do sums quickly rather than going to Shift F3 and going through that or pressing equals and typing in sum. We can just press the Alt equals shortcut to quickly get to it. Now another useful function within Excel is count. And what count does, as the name suggests, is simply count the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. So we can just apply count to this area with Shift Control, and we get that this contains 21 rows right here. So this is not terribly useful in this case. If we're looking at product quantity data, the sum function would probably be more helpful. We see that we have 449 different products ordered here, but nevertheless, count can be useful in cases where we have a lot of rows, a lot of columns, some of them are blank, and we need to kind of sum up the data over a larger area. Other few useful functions are the average, max, and min functions. So average, we just type equals average, and this gets us the average product revenue per order. So we see it's around 200,000. Use this all the time when you're looking at customer due diligence data and you're trying to figure out what the average customer value is to the company. Sometimes you use it even in other scenarios where you might be trying to figure out the company's average monthly revenue or some other type of average like that. Now max, as you might have realized, simply gives us the maximum of a certain data set. So here we see it's 1,000,000. Similarly, we see that min, as you might expect, gives us the minimum of that data set, which in this case is about 45,000. So average, max, and min. These are all pretty intuitive, so I'm not going to spend too much time on them. The main point is just to remember what they're actually called. So don't type out maximum or anything like that. Just keep it to max. So it's more about just remembering the names of these different formulas and shortcuts as opposed to understanding the meaning, because that's pretty straightforward. Now, to build on the sum and count formulas that I just went through with you, there are some other variations of those that we could do, and I'm going to go through a couple of those quickly right now. So probably the most common one in investment banking is SUMIF and COUNTIF. So the first one, SUMIF, basically lets us, in this example, we see we have product revenue per order here, and what SUMIF would let us do, for example, is let's say we only want to look at product orders from companies with over 10,000 employees. So just looking at this list, we see that we really only have this one, wins, at the bottom that has over 10,000 employees. So we could set up a function to do exactly that. So SUMIF we could set this as the range with Shift and Control. And this range basically means the region where we're going to be checking for the number of employees to make sure we're summing up the right data. So that's our range. And then the criteria, we enter quotes right here. Make sure you remember to do this. This is a common mistake, and Excel will give you an error message if you forget. But we can put greater than and then 10,000. Could also put less than 10,000 or equals to 10,000, less than or equals, greater than or equals, and so on. And then for the sum range, we just select this product revenue per order column right here. Okay, and as we might expect, it simply sums up the win orders of 1 million and then 750,000 right here. So that's SUMIF. So we could do the same thing with COUNTIF, and we could only count orders coming from companies with over 10,000 employees. So let's set the employees as the sum range right here. And you'll notice here that we don't have a separate range and then a sum range. And the reason is because the count function doesn't actually count up all the individual employee counts inside here. It just counts the number of rows or the number of columns. So for the criteria, we'll just say over 10,000 once again. And as we might expect, there's only two, the two wins orders here at the bottom. Then finally, another very useful variation on these is what's called the sum product function. Sum product. And you see the description right here. It returns the sum of the products of corresponding ranges or arrays. So what you do here is you enter a range of cells. In this case, we're going to enter product quantity, product price. So we'll enter product price first. Then we'll enter product quantity over here. And just fix the formatting. This will give us the cross product of these two different columns. They have to be the same size for this to work correctly, so be careful of that, but this can be very useful. It's very helpful when you're analyzing large data sets. It saves you a lot of time. Of course, we could just sum up everything, and that would give us the same number, this 4,250,500 number, but sum product, nevertheless, is very useful when you're looking at data sets like this. And then another couple of functions that are common are the absolute value function, which is equals ABS, returns the absolute value of a number without its sign. It's not terribly useful here because we don't have any negative numbers, but absolute value could be helpful in cases where you're trying to error check your spreadsheet for mistakes. Sometimes when you're trying to figure out whether or not numbers should be positive or negative, you have a mix of both and you're trying to normalize the data. So in those cases, absolute value could come in handy. We see that if we just enter here and we select a single number with it, we just get a single number back, this 2. Of course, if we had a negative 2, then absolute value right here would get us the 2 instead. So we would be removing that negative sign. And then another set of useful built-in functions in Excel are if, and or. And to illustrate this one, I'm just going to enter a new column here to show you how it can be used. So what we want to do here is only display this product revenue per order if our customers meet certain criteria. And we can't completely do this with just SUMIF because we're going to be using multiple criteria. So here's the set that we're going to be using. So we'll start out by saying if, and then we can enter our conditions here. So logical test. And what we want to do is we want to display this product revenue per order if we have over 5,000 employees or if this company is in the entertainment industry. So what we can do here is say if, put an or right here, and say employees are over 5,000 or the industry is entertainment. Notice how the or goes on the outside of these two logical tests, so be careful of that. Sometimes you get tempted to just start entering the test and try to enter the or in the middle or at the end, but that doesn't really work. You have to put the or. We can also use an and here. And the or just displays this value if either of these conditions is true and displays it if both the conditions are true. So if it's true, we want to display product price multiplied by product quantity. And if it's false, we want to display 0. So this is pretty intuitive. When you start playing around with it in Excel, it gives you instructions on how to use this if you get confused. But the if, or, and functions are very, very useful, and use them all the time, primarily when you're cutting data and looking at customer due diligence data like we are here, but also even in Excel models. Sometimes you use this for color coding, for displaying different values, for showing different formulas, things like that. So let's enter it right here. And we see that in this case, we are in the entertainment industry, so this works fine. We can just copy this down, copy it down with Alt ESR. And we see here that some of these are 0 because we have under 5,000 employees and they're not the entertainment industry. These are all 0, and so on. And we could also change this to and, make it more selective. So we only want to be displaying the product revenue per order if we have over 5,000 employees and the company's in the entertainment industry. So this immediately goes away because we don't have over 5,000 employees. We see that in this case, actually everything is 0 because nothing meets our criteria right here. So I'll just undo this now. Okay. Okay, so let me just go to the bottom and I'll delete some of the work that I just did there. Okay. So that's a quick overview of some of the most important built-in formulas in Excel. Now, there are many, many, many formulas, probably hundreds or thousands, but the 5 to 10 that I just went over are going to be among the ones that you use most frequently in investment banking, finance, and in private equity. So I would urge you to focus on those. And some of the others may be useful depending on what you're doing, but for the most part, you're mostly just doing simple data manipulation and analysis like we are here. So that's why the sum product, sum if, and simple conditional tests like if, and or are so useful. So for your exercise, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to do it first and then follow along, pause the video, try it yourself. And if you get stuck, just unpause it and I'll go through everything with the shortcuts this time. So I'm going to create a couple different categories right here. First one will be total revenue. I want to make this in bold. Sum up everything there. Then I'll enter another category, number of orders. Sum up everything there. The formatting here is not correct, so I'll also need to change that. Then I want to enter this other number for large customers. What this will do is we're going to do a sum if, check on the employees, set it to only count ones with over 5,000, and then sum up the product revenue per order right here. Again, that formula is off, so we'll fix that. And then the last thing I want you to do is enter another number here for total revenue, but this time we're going to do it in a different way. We're going to use the sum product function. Okay. So that's what we have. So it's pretty simple. Just add these 4 fields to your spreadsheet. And for this part, you don't really actually need any keyboard shortcuts because it's more about using all the functions I just showed you. But nevertheless, if you get stuck or you just want to check what you're doing after you've started, just unpause the video and then I'll walk you through it in more detail and give you all the shortcuts and explain what I'm doing along the way. Okay, good. So now let's step through this again, and this time I'm going to go through it in more detail. I'm just going to undo everything that I did here. and I'm going to explain what I'm doing along the way this time. So first things first, let's just enter total revenue right here in cell E24. Press Control B to bold that. Then we can press either Alt equals to do the sum right here, which is fine except for the fact that it also highlights row 23. So in this case, it's probably better just to type sum, press equals and then type sum, and then Shift Control on the arrow keys to highlight everything. Now for number of orders, I'll just enter that right here. Press Control B to bold it. And then I can just do count, type count, and again, use this range with the Shift, Control, and Up key to highlight everything. Fix the formatting by going to Control 1, N for number, then Alt C for category, and then N for number right there. And then for this next one, large customers, press Control B to bold that. Then we're just going to be doing a sum if. So type equals and then sum if. Now for the range, remember that with sum if, we first set, the first range we set is for the actual criteria. So we press Shift Control, the up arrow key. So C2 to C22. Now for the criteria, again, remember we need quotes. So type the quotes and then greater than 5,000, end the quotes, comma, and then we enter the sum range right here with the Shift Control and up arrow key. Fix the formatting here. We just press Control C on total revenue and Alt EST to copy it down there. And then finally for the last one, total revenue, I'll just press Control B to bold it. And then we're just going to use sum product. So we type equals sum product, Shift Control to highlight all the product prices, and then Shift Control to highlight all the product quantities right here. So we have those two, they match up, so everything's in order. When you're doing this, again, be careful that the areas that you selected, the columns or rows, are the same sizes and that they match up perfectly, or else it won't quite work correctly. And again, to fix the formatting, just Control C and then Alt EST. So that's how we use formulas in Excel to add some simple information to our data set like this and go through and do some simple analysis. So that's pretty much it for an overview of the formulas and then some of the basic ones that are built into Excel. Coming up next, I'm going to be going through iterations, circularity, and then how to audit and check your spreadsheets for errors, mistakes, and how to figure out where your data is coming from and where it's going. And for those, I'm going to be going through the basic LBO model template we have because it's far easier to explain iterations and circularity with that as opposed to the simple data set we have here. But it's just going to be an extension of some of what we've done here. I'm going to be showing you some of the more advanced features of formulas and functions within Excel.